The High Council chamber was full again. Every member was present. Supreme Chancellor Vorn sat on his throne looking tired. The weight of leadership had never felt heavier. Ambassador Krin stood before them presenting her report. Her words were not what anyone wanted to hear. She told them everything. The human ships were as advanced as reported. Maybe more so. The crews were professional and well-trained. Their captain was intelligent and cautious. Most importantly, humans were not bluffing. They had the capability to back up their claims, and they had the will to use it. General Vex stood up angrily. He said Krin was overreacting. One meeting with one human captain did not mean the Empire should surrender. They still had superior numbers. They still controlled most of this sector. Humans were confined to a few systems. The Empire could crush them if they committed to it. But Lyra, the science advisor, disagreed. She had been analyzing the sensor data from the battle. The human weapons worked on principles the Empire did not fully understand. Their engines operated at efficiency levels that should be impossible. Their shields could absorb damage that would destroy Imperial ships. This was not just advanced technology. This was revolutionary technology. Tal, the intelligence officer, added more disturbing information. His agents had discovered that humans were not alone. They had been making contact with other species, small civilizations that lived under Imperial rule, species that had always been too weak to resist. But with human support, that could change. The council members muttered among themselves. This was worse than they thought. It was not just about humans. It was about the entire balance of power in the sector. If humans inspired rebellion, if they offered their technology to the Empire's subjects, everything could fall apart. Vorn raised his hand for silence. He understood the situation clearly now. The Empire faced a choice. They could fight humans and probably win through sheer numbers. But the cost would be enormous. Thousands of ships destroyed, millions of lives lost, and even if they won, the Empire would be weakened, vulnerable to other threats, or they could make peace. Except that humans controlled their systems, established borders, maybe even trade. It would mean admitting that the Empire was not all-powerful, that there were limits to their reach. That was hard for proud Valorians to accept, but it was the smart choice. The Supreme Chancellor announced his decision. They would accept the human treaty proposal. Clear boundaries would be established. Both sides would respect the other's territory. There would be no war. Not now. Not unless humans broke the agreement first. General Vex looked like he wanted to argue more. But he knew better. Vorn had spoken. The decision was final. The Empire would make peace with humanity. It was not surrender. It was strategic wisdom. At least that was what they would tell themselves. The news spread quickly through Imperial space. Many citizens were confused. How could the mighty Empire make peace with such a new species? But the official explanation satisfied most of them. The humans were strong, worthy of respect. Better to have them as neighbors than enemies. It made sense even if it stung their pride. In human space, Kate Morgan received the message from Earth Command. The Empire had agreed to the treaty. Peace was secured. Her mission was a success. She felt relief wash over her. War had been avoided. Lives had been saved. Humanity had proven itself without massive bloodshed. But she also felt something else. Responsibility. This was just the beginning. Humans were now recognized as a major power. That came with expectations. Other species would look to them. Enemies would test them. Allies would need them. The easy part was over. Now came the hard work of living up to their reputation. Ryan Torres congratulated her. The crew celebrated quietly. They had done their job well. But Kate reminded them not to get too comfortable. The treaty was signed but not yet proven. They would need to remain vigilant. Stay sharp. Continue training. Peace was good, but it was also fragile. The formal signing ceremony took place 2 weeks later. It was held on neutral ground, a space station run by a species that had no stake in the conflict. Representatives from both sides attended. Kate was there representing humanity. Ambassador Krin represented the Empire. The ceremony was brief. Both sides signed the documents. Boundaries were officially recognized. Trade agreements were outlined. Dispute resolution procedures were established. It was all very formal and diplomatic. But beneath the ceremony, both sides knew what this really meant. The galaxy had changed. After the signing, Krin approached Kate privately. She said she respected what humans had accomplished. Going from nothing to a recognized power in just 20 years was remarkable. She hoped both their peoples could benefit from this peace. Kate agreed. She said there was room in the galaxy for everyone, no reason they could not coexist. But Krin also gave a warning. Not all Valorians accepted this peace. Some, like General Vex, still believed in Imperial supremacy. They would be watching for any sign of human weakness, any mistake, any opportunity to restart the conflict. Kate needed to be careful. Peace was signed but not guaranteed. Kate thanked her for the honesty. She said humans were aware of the risks. They would not give anyone a reason to break the treaty, but they would also not show weakness. They would continue to build, to grow, to strengthen their position. If someone wanted to test them again, they would regret it. The two women parted on good terms. They were not friends exactly, but they understood each other. Both were trying to do what was best for their people. Both knew that peace was better than war, and both hoped this treaty would last. Kate returned to the Defiance. Her crew was waiting. They had watched the ceremony on their screens. Everyone seemed relieved. The tension of the past weeks was finally easing. But Kate gathered them together. She told them this was not the end of their mission. It was just the beginning of a new phase. Humans had to prove they were worthy of this peace. That meant being strong but not aggressive, confident but not arrogant, ready for war but hoping for peace. It was a difficult balance. But humans had always been good at difficult things. Earth Command sent new orders. The fleet would remain on station. They would patrol the border, monitor for any treaty violations. And most importantly, they would serve as a reminder that humanity had earned its place, a reminder that anyone who threatened human interests would face consequences. Months passed. The treaty held. There were no major incidents, a few minor disputes about trade routes or resource claims, but the established procedures worked. Both sides resolved issues through talking rather than fighting. It was not perfect, but it was working. Other species took notice. Small civilizations that had been under Imperial influence started reaching out to humans. They wanted trade agreements, defense pacts, technology exchanges. Humanity was becoming more than just a military power. They were becoming a political force. Kate watched these developments with interest. She was still on the Defiance, still patrolling the border. But her role was changing. She was not just a military officer anymore. She was a symbol, a representative of human strength and human values. Other species looked at her and saw what humanity stood for. Danny Price continued improving the ship's systems. He had developed new shield modifications, better power distribution, more efficient weapons. The Defiance was already one of the most advanced ships in the galaxy. Now it was even better, and other human ships were getting the same upgrades. Chris Kelly, captain of the Eagle, sent Kate a message. He said he had been offered a promotion, command of a new battle group being formed to patrol another sector. He was taking it. But he wanted Kate to know that she had inspired him. Her courage had made this peace possible. He was proud to serve alongside her. Kate felt touched by his words. She had just been doing her job, but she realized that sometimes doing your job was enough. Sometimes one person standing firm could change everything. She had stood firm against the Empire, and it had worked. On Earth, celebrations continued. Humanity had secured its place among the stars. Children were taught about the treaty, about the brave crews who had faced down the Empire, about Captain Kate Morgan and the Defiance. It became part of human history, a story of courage and determination. But Kate did not think about history. She thought about the future, about the next challenge, about the next threat, because there would always be another challenge, another threat. The galaxy was a dangerous place. Humans had proven they could survive here. Now they had to prove they could thrive. 1 year after the treaty was signed, Kate Morgan stood on the bridge of the Defiance looking at a new challenge. A distress call had come from a small mining colony at the edge of human space. Pirates were attacking. The colony had minimal defenses. They needed help urgently. This was the kind of situation the treaty did not cover. Pirates did not respect boundaries. They went wherever there were easy targets. The colony was officially in human territory, but close to the border. Close enough that Imperial ships could respond faster than most human vessels. Kate made the decision quickly. The Defiance would respond. They were the closest ship. But she also sent a message to the Imperial patrol in the area. She informed them of the situation, asked if they wanted to coordinate. It was a test of the treaty. Would the Empire help protect a human colony? The response came from Commander Vexthor. Kate remembered that name from intelligence reports. He was a military hardliner, someone who had opposed the treaty. She expected him to refuse, to say it was not his problem, but his response surprised her. He would send 2 ships to assist. Pirates were everyone's problem. The Defiance arrived at the colony first. 3 pirate vessels were attacking the mining platforms. They were using old weapons but in large numbers. The colony's shields were failing. Kate did not hesitate. She ordered her crew to engage. The Defiance's weapons locked onto the pirate ships. The first pirate ship tried to run when they saw the Defiance, but human ships were faster. Kate's crew disabled it with a single shot. The other 2 pirates scattered. One tried to hide behind an asteroid. The other dove toward the colony, thinking the humans would not risk civilian casualties. They were wrong. Ryan Torres coordinated the targeting. The weapons officer fired precisely. The pirate ship near the colony was disabled without any shots coming close to the mining platforms. Perfect accuracy, perfect control. The pirates never had a chance. The 3rd pirate ship was trying to escape when the Imperial vessels arrived. Vexthor's ships moved into position and blocked the exit. The pirate was trapped. He surrendered immediately. Imperial crews boarded the pirate vessels and arrested the crews. It was over in less than 20 minutes. Kate opened a channel to Vexthor. She thanked him for the assistance. He responded formally. He said it was their duty. Pirates threatened trade routes. Imperial and human alike. Working together made sense. But Kate noticed something in his voice. Not quite friendliness, but maybe respect. The colony sent grateful messages to both the human and Imperial ships. They had been saved because 2 former enemies worked together. It was a small thing, just one incident. But it meant something. It showed the treaty was more than just words on paper. News of the cooperation spread. Both human and Imperial populations heard about it. Many on both sides were skeptical at first, but the facts were clear. When civilians needed help, both sides responded. That built trust more than any diplomatic ceremony could. Over the following months, more joint operations happened. Not planned, just situations where it made sense to work together. Trade convoy escorts, search and rescue missions, disaster relief. Each time, human and Imperial forces cooperated smoothly. Professional respect grew between the crews. Kate met with Vexthor several times. Their conversations were always brief and focused on practical matters. But she learned things about him. He was a career officer, loyal to the Empire. He had fought in many battles, won most of them. The treaty had disappointed him at first. He felt the Empire had backed down, but working with humans changed his mind. He saw that they were not reckless or primitive. They were skilled and disciplined. Their technology was genuinely superior in some ways. The Empire had not backed down. They had made a smart choice. Vexthor admitted that to Kate one day. She respected his honesty. On the Imperial capital, Supreme Chancellor Vorn followed these reports with satisfaction. The treaty was working better than expected. Not just avoiding war, actually building cooperation. That was more valuable than any military victory. It meant long-term stability. He called Ambassador Krin to his office. He told her that her assessment had been correct. Humans were indeed worthy of respect. Making peace had been the right choice. Now the Empire could focus resources on other matters, strengthen their core territories, improve their own technology, compete with humans through innovation rather than violence. Krin felt vindicated. She had taken a risk telling the Council the truth about human capabilities. Some had called her defeatist, but time had proven her right. The Empire was not weaker because of the treaty. In some ways, it was stronger. They had one less enemy and one potential partner. On Earth, humanity continued to expand. New colonies were established. More ships were built. Trade networks grew. But humans did not forget the lesson they learned. They had earned respect through strength and wisdom. They would maintain both. Never show weakness, but never seek unnecessary conflict. Kate received a promotion. She was offered command of an entire battle group. 5 ships, including the Defiance. She would patrol a larger area, respond to bigger threats. It was recognition of her success. But she almost turned it down. She liked her ship, her crew, the work they did together. Ryan Torres convinced her to accept. He said she could do more good with more resources, protect more people, make a bigger difference. And the Defiance would still be her flagship. The crew would still be with her. They would just have help now. Kate agreed. He was right as usual. Danny Price was promoted too. He became chief engineer for the entire battle group. He would oversee maintenance and upgrades for all 5 ships, make sure they all operated at peak efficiency, share his innovations across the fleet. He was excited. More ships meant more opportunities to improve things. The ceremony for Kate's promotion was held on Earth. She traveled home for the first time in 2 years. The planet looked beautiful from orbit, blue and green and white. Home. She felt a surge of emotion. This was what she was protecting. Not just territory or resources, but people, her people. During the ceremony, she met the Earth President, a woman named Laura Grant. She thanked Kate personally for her service, said that Kate had done more than protect human interests. She had shown the galaxy what humanity could be, strong but fair, capable but restrained. That was the reputation Earth wanted. Kate returned to space with her new responsibilities. 5 ships now under her command, hundreds of crew members depending on her decisions. It felt heavy, but she was ready. She had learned so much over the past year, about leadership, about diplomacy, about when to fight and when to talk. Her battle group patrolled the border region. They encountered Imperial ships regularly now. Always professional, always courteous. Sometimes they worked together. Sometimes they just acknowledged each other and moved on. But there was no hostility, no tension. Just 2 forces doing their jobs in the same space. Years passed. The treaty became normal. Young people on both sides grew up knowing peace. They did not remember the fear and uncertainty of first contact. They did not understand why anyone had worried. Humans and Valorians could obviously coexist. It seemed natural to them, but Kate remembered. She remembered standing on the bridge when 3 Imperial warships approached. Remembered the moment she gave the order to engage. Remembered wondering if this would start a war that would kill millions. Those memories kept her sharp, kept her from taking peace for granted. One day she received a message from Vexthor. He was retiring from active service, taking a position training new officers. He wanted to thank her. Working with humans had taught him important lessons. He would make sure the next generation of Imperial officers understood those lessons too. Kate wished him well. New threats emerged over time. Other species, pirates, natural disasters. But humans and the Empire often faced them together now. The cooperation that started with one mining colony rescue had grown into something bigger. Not quite an alliance, but definitely not enemies. Partners when it made sense. Kate thought about how far humanity had come. From primitive newcomers to respected power in just a few decades. It seemed impossible. But it had happened. Through courage, through innovation, through the willingness to stand up for themselves while also seeking peace when possible. She looked at her crew working efficiently on the bridge. Ryan coordinating operations, Danny maintaining systems, all of them professionals, all of them proud to serve. This was the strength of humanity, not just their ships or weapons, but their people, their determination, their refusal to accept being less than they could be. The Valorian Empire had panicked when they first encountered human ships. They had never seen technology like that, never faced an opponent so capable. Their panic had led to wisdom, recognition that the galaxy was changing, that new powers would rise, that adapting was better than resisting. Humanity had proven they deserved their place among the stars. Not through conquest, through excellence, through showing that they could build something better, something faster, something stronger. And through using that strength wisely, that was the real victory. Not defeating the Empire, but earning their respect. Kate smiled as she watched the stars pass by. The future was uncertain. It always was. New challenges would come. New threats would emerge, but humanity would face them. With courage. With innovation. Ambassador Krin's ship arrived at the edge of human territory 3 days later. The journey had given her time to think, time to prepare, time to wonder if she was making a mistake. But orders were orders. The Empire needed information. She would get it. The human ships were waiting, 6 of them in a defensive formation. They looked smaller than Imperial warships, but somehow more dangerous, sleek, efficient. Every line of their design suggested speed and power. Krin felt a chill run through her. These were weapons designed by masters of war. Her communication officer sent the standard diplomatic greeting. "We come in peace. We wish to talk." There was a brief pause. Then a response came back. The humans would receive her. She could dock with the lead ship, the Defiance. Captain Kate Morgan would meet with her personally. Krin's ship moved slowly toward the Defiance. As they got closer, she could see more details. The hull was dark gray, almost black. There were no decorations, no symbols of honor or achievement, just smooth metal and weapon ports. Lots of weapon ports. More than seemed necessary. The docking process was smooth. Human technology was clearly advanced. Everything worked perfectly. No delays, no complications. Within minutes, Krin was walking through the airlock into the human ship. 2 guards met her. They were polite but watchful. They escorted her through the corridors. The inside of the ship surprised her. It was clean, organized, efficient. The crew she passed looked professional. They moved with purpose. No wasted motion. No idle chatter. These were not the actions of a primitive species. These were the actions of experienced soldiers. They brought her to a conference room. It was simple. A table, chairs, a large window showing the stars outside. Kate Morgan was already there. She stood when Krin entered. The human captain was younger than Krin expected, but her eyes were old. They had seen things, done things. This was not someone to underestimate. Kate gestured to a chair. Krin sat down. They studied each other for a moment. 2 representatives of 2 very different civilizations. One old and established, one new and ambitious. The future of this entire sector of space might depend on what happened in this room. Krin spoke first. She thanked Kate for agreeing to meet. She said the Empire wanted to avoid conflict. They believed there was room in the galaxy for everyone. Perhaps they had started off on the wrong foot. Perhaps they could find a way to coexist peacefully. Kate listened without interrupting. When Krin finished, she nodded slowly. She said humans also preferred peace, but they would not accept being pushed around. The Empire had tried to claim human territory. That was unacceptable. If the Empire wanted peace, they needed to respect boundaries. Krin asked about the human ship technology. She tried to sound casual, just curious, but Kate saw through it immediately. She smiled slightly. The ambassador wanted to know if humans were a real threat, or just got lucky once. Kate understood. In Krin's position, she would wonder the same thing. Kate stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the other human ships. She said that humans had been fighting wars for their entire history. It was in their nature. Not because they enjoyed it, but because they were good at it. When they reached space, they brought that knowledge with them. She explained that human ships were designed with one goal: survive. Every system had backup systems. Every weapon had multiple purposes. Every crew member was trained to do 3 different jobs. Humans did not build ships to show off. They built ships to win. Krin asked how many ships humans had. Kate turned back to face her. She said that was classified information, but she could say this. Every human colony had defenses. Every trade route had patrols, and production was increasing every month. The Empire should not assume they had seen everything humanity could do. The ambassador felt her confidence waver. Kate was not bragging. She was stating facts. And those facts were frightening. The Empire was used to being the strongest force in any situation. But sitting across from this human captain, Krin was not sure anymore. Maybe the Empire had finally met their match. She tried a different approach. She asked what humans wanted. What were their goals? Kate sat back down. She said humans wanted what every species wanted: safety, freedom, a chance to grow and explore. They were not trying to conquer anyone, but they would not be conquered either. Krin suggested a treaty. Clear borders, no aggression, trade if both sides wanted it. The Empire would recognize human territory. In return, humans would respect Imperial space. It seemed like a fair compromise. Kate considered it. She said she would need to discuss it with Earth Command, but it sounded reasonable. Before Krin left, she asked one more question. How did humans advance so quickly? Most species took thousands of years to develop the technology she saw here. Humans had done it in decades. What was their secret? Kate thought about it. She said there was no secret. Humans were just desperate. They knew they were late to the galaxy. They knew older species would see them as weak. So they worked harder, pushed farther, took risks that seemed crazy, and it paid off. Desperation bred innovation. Krin returned to her ship with a lot to think about. The meeting had not gone how she expected. She thought she would find a young species trying to act tough. Instead, she found a young species that was actually tough. There was a big difference. As her ship traveled back to the Imperial capital, Krin wrote her report. She chose her words carefully. The Empire needed to understand the truth. Humans were not a minor annoyance. They were a major power. Treating them as anything less would be a fatal mistake. She wrote that humans had technology equal to or better than Imperial technology. They had discipline and training that rivaled the best Imperial crews. They had industrial capacity that was growing rapidly, and most importantly, they had the will to fight. They would not back down from a threat. Her recommendation was clear. Make peace, sign the treaty, recognize human territory, avoid a war that the Empire might not win. Yes, that was a shocking thing to admit, but it was the truth. The Valorian Empire had never faced an enemy like this. Better to have humans as neutral neighbors than as enemies. Back on the Defiance, Ryan Torres asked Kate how the meeting went. She said it went well. The ambassador was smart. She understood the situation. She would report accurately to her superiors. Whether the Empire would listen was another question, but at least they would have the truth. Kate sent her own report to Earth Command. She recommended accepting the treaty if the Empire offered it. War would be costly even if humans won, and there were other species in the galaxy to worry about. Better to secure peace with the Empire and focus resources elsewhere. The other human ships maintained their positions. They ran drills, practiced maneuvers, kept their systems sharp. Just because diplomacy was happening did not mean they could relax. Peace was preferable, but if war came, they would be ready. Danny Price worked in engineering, constantly improving the ship's systems. He was never satisfied. There was always something that could be better, faster, stronger. That was the human way. Never stop improving. Never assume you were good enough. Always push for more. Kate stood on the bridge looking at the stars. She thought about her home world, about Earth, about all the people there who were counting on her. Humanity's place in the galaxy was not guaranteed. They had to earn it, fight for it, prove they deserved to be here. She thought about the Empire. 3,000 years of dominance. That was a long time. But nothing lasted forever. Empires rose. Empires fell. Maybe the Valorian Empire was entering its twilight. Maybe humanity would be part of the force that brought about change. Or maybe they would find a way to coexist, only time would tell. But one thing was certain. Humans were not going anywhere. They had come to the stars. They had built their ships. They had claimed their territory. And they would defend it against anyone who tried to take it away. The Empire had panicked when they saw what humans could do. Now they had to decide how to respond. The next few weeks would determine the future of everyone involved. The warning lights filled the command center with red flashes. Admiral Krath stood in the middle of the room, his forearms crossed tightly across his chest. He stared at the main screen with wide eyes. Something was coming through the edge of their territory, and his sensors could barely track it. The Valorian Empire had ruled this part of space for 3,000 years. They were the strongest military force in 12 star systems. Their ships were fast. Their weapons were powerful. No one dared to challenge them. Until now, the sensor officer called out from his station. His voice shook with fear. The readings made no sense. Whatever was approaching moved faster than anything they had ever seen. The energy signature was off the charts. It was like nothing in their database. Krath walked closer to the screen. He could see it now. A single ship. It was smaller than their battleships, but somehow more threatening. The design was strange, angular, sharp. It looked like it was built for one purpose only. War. The communications officer spoke up. A message was coming through. Krath gave permission to play it. The screen changed. A human face appeared. The Admiral had heard of humans before. They were new to space travel, primitive, weak, At least that was what the report said. The human on the screen was a woman. She had short dark hair and calm eyes. She wore a uniform that looked simple but clean. She spoke clearly. Her voice was steady. She introduced herself as Captain Kate Morgan of the Earth vessel Defiance. Kate explained that humans had claimed the nearby star system. The Valorian Empire had no authority there. She asked the Empire to respect the boundary. Her tone was polite but firm. She did not sound afraid. That bothered Krath more than anything else. Krath laughed. It was a harsh sound. He told his officers to prepare a response. Humans had no right to claim anything. This sector belonged to the Empire. They had controlled it for centuries. Some primitive species with one ship could not change that. He ordered 3 warships to intercept the human vessel. They would teach these newcomers a lesson. The Empire did not negotiate with inferiors. They crushed them. The warships moved into position. They were each 10 times larger than the human ship. Their weapons could destroy a city in seconds. Kate Morgan watched the approaching ships on her own screens. Her crew waited for orders. The bridge was quiet. Everyone knew what was about to happen, but no one looked scared. They looked ready. Her second officer was a man named Ryan Torres. He had been with her for 5 years. He trusted her completely. He asked if they should power up weapons. Kate nodded. The ship hummed with energy. Systems came online that the Valorians had no idea existed. Back on the Valorian command ship, Krath watched the human vessel. It was not running away. That was strange. Most species fled when they saw Imperial warships, but this one held its position. Maybe they were too stupid to understand the danger. The lead warship sent a final warning: surrender or be destroyed. There was no response from the humans. Krath gave the order: fire. All 3 warships opened fire at once. Energy beams shot through space. Missiles launched. It was enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. Then something impossible happened. The human ship moved. It did not just dodge. It moved so fast that it seemed to vanish. The sensors lost track of it for 2 full seconds. When it reappeared, it was behind the warships. All 3 of them. Krath felt his blood turn cold. How did they move like that? No ship could accelerate that fast. The forces would crush the crew inside. But the human ship looked undamaged. In fact, it looked like it had barely tried. The human ship fired. But it was not like any weapon the Valorians knew. There were no beams. No missiles. Just a strange pulse of energy. It hit the first warship. Nothing happened for a moment. Then every system on that ship went dark. Power failed. Life support stopped. Weapons went offline. The ship became a floating piece of metal. The same thing happened to the second warship. Then the third. All 3 vessels were disabled in less than 10 seconds. The crews were alive but helpless. They could do nothing but drift in space and wait for rescue. Krath stared at the screen. His mouth hung open. This was not possible. The humans were supposed to be weak. Their technology was supposed to be primitive. But they had just destroyed 3 Imperial warships without even damaging them. That took more skill and power than destroying them would have. Kate Morgan appeared on the screen again. She looked exactly the same. Calm, steady. She said that the disabled ships would have their power restored in 1 hour. The crews would be fine. But this was a warning. Humans would defend their territory. The Empire should choose peace instead of war. The message ended. The human ship turned and moved away. It accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible. Within minutes, it was gone. The Valorian fleet was left with 3 dead warships and 1,000 questions. Krath sat down heavily in his command chair. He had served the Empire for 40 years. He had fought in dozens of battles. He had conquered 6 different species. But he had never seen anything like this. Fear crept into his heart for the first time in decades. His communications officer asked what they should do. Krath did not answer right away. He was thinking. The humans had technology that made Imperial ships look like toys. They had speed that defied physics. They had weapons that could disable anything without destruction. And they had only sent 1 ship. 1 ship. That thought terrified him more than anything else. If 1 human ship could do this, what could 10 ships do? What could 100 do? What could a fleet do? The Empire had thousands of ships, but would that even matter against this kind of power? He gave orders to send a full report to the Imperial capital. The High Council needed to know about this immediately. This was not just a border incident. This was a threat to the entire empire. The humans were not primitive. They were something far more dangerous. As his officers worked to restore power to the disabled ships, Krath looked at the empty space where the human vessel had been. His hands trembled slightly. The Valorian Empire had always been the predator. Now for the first time they might be the prey. Far away, Kate Morgan sat in her captain's chair. Her crew was celebrating their easy victory. But Kate did not celebrate. She knew this was just the beginning. The Empire would not accept this defeat. They would come back with more ships, more weapons, more determination. Ryan Torres sat down next to her. He asked if she thought the Empire would listen to reason. Kate shook her head. Empires never listened to reason. They only understood strength. That was why Earth had sent her here. To show strength. To make the Empire think twice before they tried to push humans around. She looked at the stars outside the window. Earth was far behind them now. But humanity was spreading across the galaxy. They were building colonies, claiming systems, making a place for themselves among the stars, and they would not let anyone take that away from them. The Valorian Empire was about to learn a hard lesson. Humans might be new to space. They might be small in numbers, but they were not weak. They had spent centuries fighting each other on their home world. They knew war better than most species could imagine, and they had poured all that knowledge into their ships and weapons. Kate sent a message back to Earth Command. She reported the encounter. She told them the Empire would likely respond with force. She asked for reinforcements. Earth Command replied within an hour. Help was on the way. 5 more ships would arrive within the week. Each one was just as advanced as the Defiance. She smiled slightly. The Empire had no idea what was coming. They thought humans had one special ship. They were wrong. Earth had dozens of them, and more were being built every day. The galaxy was about to change. The old powers were about to face a new challenger, and that challenger was humanity. The Imperial capital was a massive city that covered an entire planet. Towers reached into the clouds, ships moved between buildings like insects. The center of power for the Valorian Empire sat in the tallest tower of all, the High Council Chamber. Supreme Chancellor Vorn sat on his throne. He was old even by Valorian standards. He had ruled the Empire for 60 years. During that time, the Empire had grown stronger and larger. No one questioned his authority. Until today, the council members filled the room. 12 of the most powerful Valorians in the Empire, military leaders, scientists, politicians. They all looked worried. The report from Admiral Krath had reached them 2 hours ago. No one could believe it at first, but the sensor data did not lie. A human ship had defeated 3 Imperial warships without taking any damage. It had moved faster than their sensors could track. It had weapons that shut down every system without destroying anything. And it had done all of this with ease, like it was playing with children. General Vex stood up to speak. He was the head of the Imperial military, a warrior with 100 victories. He did not believe the report. It had to be some kind of trick. Maybe the humans had found ancient technology. Maybe they stole it from another species. There was no way they developed this on their own. The science advisor disagreed. Her name was Lyra. She had studied every known species in the galaxy. She pulled up data on her screen. Humans had only achieved faster than light travel 20 years ago. But they had progressed incredibly fast. Their technology grew at a rate no one had ever seen before. Lyra explained that humans were different from other species. They fought each other constantly on their home world. For thousands of years, they had been at war. This made them experts in violence. It also drove their technology forward at an unnatural pace. What took other species centuries to develop, humans created in decades. Supreme Chancellor Vorn listened quietly. He was thinking. The Empire had ignored humans because they seemed insignificant. A small species from a distant world. They had no history in space, no established territory, no powerful allies. The Empire had made a mistake. They had underestimated them. General Vex demanded action. They could not let this insult stand. One human ship had humiliated the Empire. They needed to respond with overwhelming force. Send a battle fleet. Show the humans what real power looked like. crush them before they became a bigger threat. But the intelligence officer had a different view. His name was Tal. He had been gathering information on humans for months. What he found disturbed him. Humans were not just building a few advanced ships. They were building many of them. Their industrial capacity was enormous for such a young spacefaring species. Tal showed the Council images from spy drones. Human shipyards in orbit around their home world. Dozens of vessels under construction. Each one similar to the ship that had defeated their warships. And these were just the ones they could see. There might be more hidden in other systems. The Council chamber grew quiet. Everyone stared at the images. The implications were clear. If humans had dozens of these ships, a battle fleet might not be enough. The Empire would need to commit serious resources to defeat them, and there was no guarantee of victory. Vorn asked the critical question, how many ships did the humans have? Tal admitted he did not know for certain. His best estimate was between 50 and 100 combat vessels of similar capability. But that was just a guess. The real number could be higher or lower. General Vex scoffed at the concern. So what if humans had 100 ships? The Empire had 10,000. Numbers would win. They always did. But Lyra shook her head. This was not about numbers. This was about technology. One human ship had beaten 3 Imperial warships. That meant each human ship was worth at least 3 of theirs. Maybe more. If that ratio held true across a larger battle, humans with 100 ships could stand against 300 Imperial vessels, or more. The Empire had never faced an enemy with such a technological advantage. Every war they had won was because they had better weapons than their opponents. Now they were the ones with worse weapons. The Council began to argue. Some wanted war. Some wanted negotiation. Some wanted to gather more information before deciding anything. Vorn raised his hand. Everyone fell silent. He had made his decision. They would send an envoy to the humans, not to negotiate peace, not yet, but to learn more about them, to understand their capabilities, to see if there was a way to match their technology. If diplomacy failed, then they would consider war. But war would be the last option, not the first. General Vex looked angry but said nothing. Vorn was Supreme Chancellor. His word was law. The decision was made. The Empire would reach out to humanity. They would send their best diplomat, someone who could read between the lines, someone who could assess the true threat level. That someone was Ambassador Krin. She had negotiated treaties with 15 different species. She had ended 3 wars through words alone. She was known throughout the Empire as the most skilled diplomat they had. If anyone could handle the humans, it was her. Meanwhile, in human space, Kate Morgan received new orders. Earth Command wanted her to stay in position. More ships were on their way. They would form a defensive line. The Empire would likely send someone to talk, maybe an ambassador, maybe a spy. Either way, humans needed to present a united front. Ryan Torres asked Kate what she thought would happen. She considered the question carefully. The Empire was old, powerful, proud. They would not accept defeat easily, but they were also smart. They survived for 3,000 years by knowing when to fight and when to talk. They would try to talk first, that was good. Talking meant time. Time for more human ships to arrive. Time to strengthen their position. Time to build alliances with other species who were tired of Imperial rule. The Valorian Empire had many enemies. They just needed someone to stand up to them first. Kate thought about Earth, about humanity. They were still so new to the galaxy. Most species had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. Humans had barely begun. But that was their strength. They had no bad habits, no old ways of thinking. They approached every problem with fresh eyes and new ideas. The ship's engineer came onto the bridge. His name was Danny Price. He had designed many of the systems that made the Defiance so powerful. He reported that all systems were operating perfectly. The ship was ready for anything. Kate thanked him. She had a good crew, the best Earth had to offer. A message came through from one of the other human ships. The Eagle had arrived. Then the Valor. Then the storm. One by one, 5 more vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They moved into formation around the Defiance. Now there were 6 human ships guarding this sector of space. The captain of the Eagle was a man named Chris Kelly. He was older than Kate, more experienced, but he respected her. She had been the first to face the Empire. She had proven that humans could stand against them. He sent her a message of support. They would follow her lead. Kate felt the weight of responsibility. 6 ships, 6 crews, hundreds of lives depending on her decisions. But she did not feel afraid. She felt determined. Humanity had come too far to back down now. They had claimed their place among the stars. They would defend it with everything they had. Back on the Imperial capital, Ambassador Krin prepared for her mission. She studied everything they knew about humans, their history, their culture, their psychology. They were a strange species. Violent but also capable of great compassion. Divided but also able to unite when threatened. Unpredictable but also logical. She would need to be careful. Humans were not like other species the Empire had dealt with. They did not follow the normal patterns. They did not respect tradition or hierarchy just because it existed. They believed in earning respect through actions, not through age or position. Her ship was ready, a diplomatic vessel, unarmed, painted in neutral colors. It would carry her to human space, to meet with their leaders, to see their ships up close, to learn their secrets if possible, and most importantly, to decide if the Empire should fear them or crush them. As her ship left the capital, Krin looked back at the massive city, the heart of the Empire. It had stood for millennia. But she wondered if it would still be standing in another 1,000 years. Everything changed, even empires, and humanity might be the force that changed everything.